When it comes to the New England Patriots coaching search, there are things being negotiated that'll solve all your problems and answer all your questions. But is a decision imminent? Stick around. You're about to be locked in to the Locked On Patriots podcast.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all of you Foxborough faithful. Thank you once again for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage and hopefully your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Mike Debate. I cover your New England Patriots for Patriots Country. Reach out to me. Let me know what's on your mind on X at MDABATENFL. You can reach out to me where the skies are blue over on Blue Sky at MDABATENFL.bsky.social. And of course, if you're looking to show some love to Locked On Patriots social media style, follow our X account at LO_Patriots. Pats fans, today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Pats fans, the time for the talk is almost over. Or is it? Your New England Patriots have now completed their fourth interview for their vacant head coaching position. Patriots trying to find the 16th head coach in franchise history. They've already interviewed Byron Leftwich, Pep Hamilton. Mike Vrabel came in for an in-person interview in Boston on Thursday. And virtually, the Patriots conducted an interview with Detroit Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. Of course, that interview was virtual because Detroit right now finds themselves in the midst of a playoff run. That means the Patriots have now completed 4. But here's the interesting thing, folks. No further interviews at this time have been scheduled. So what does that mean for the New England Patriots? Well, we're going to be discussing that point today right here on the pod. We're going to start by talking about whether or not the process is really complete. Should the Patriots be eyeing at least one more candidate to help round out the search that they've been conducting throughout the past week? We're also going to switch gears, and we're going to talk about the race that is dividing Patriots social media. Are you Team Ben Johnson? Are you Team Mike Vrabel? Yeah, a lot of social media battling going back and forth, but bottom line, whether it's Vrabel or whether it's Johnson, everyone can be in agreement that the Patriots are going to have to bring in solid, experienced assistants to be around either coach. Who are some of the names that the Patriots' potential next head coach should be open to? And lastly, we're going to take a bit of a break from the Patriots coaching search, and we're going to give some much-deserved congratulations to Patriots special teamer Brendan Schooler and cornerback Christian Gonzalez, who were each named as an All-Pro. What about their seasons gives Patriots fans hope for the future? All that today going to be discussed and more, and the only man that can lend the wisdom, the counsel, and the reason, most importantly, folks, the reason that we need in Foxborough right now is my good friend and Patriots Paisan, columnist extraordinaire at PatsFans.com, co-host of Patriots 4th and 2, Steve Balestrieri. Thanks for joining me here today, Paisan. Welcome back to the pod, bud.
Always a pleasure, my friend. And yeah, I mean, we kind of thought it would be a 2-horse race. I mean, we really didn't see them going in a direction other than Vrabel or Johnson. Of course, they may be forced to if both of those guys decide to go elsewhere, although I'm kind of thinking there's one guy that's looking forward to coming here.
Yeah, I would probably say that at this point in the negotiation, Steve, it's looking like it's decisively starting to lean one way. But look, bottom line, I don't think anything should be taken away from Ben Johnson. And having spoken with Matt Deary earlier this week of Locked On Lions and getting that tangible insight, that insider insight that you can really find only here on the Locked On Podcast Network, folks, with the local experts who know their teams better than anyone. Matt had some very interesting things to tell me about Ben Johnson, and it got me excited about the possibility of him coming here and working with Drake May and being his offensive coordinator in addition to being his mentor and his head coach. Because Ben is someone that really loves to take the reins of an offense. He loves to put his own stamp on it. pour the foundation, and then build on that foundation and build as strong a house as you'll find anywhere in the NFL. That's exactly what he did in Detroit. Let's put it this way. The Patriots had more problems putting points on the board last season than any other team in the NFL. You bring in Ben Johnson, those problems are probably going to disappear, and they're probably going to do that in short order. This past season, Detroit set a franchise record with 564 points. They averaged 33.2 per game. That includes 10 games of at least 30 points scored and 6 with at least 40. That is an offense that needs to be reckoned with every time you get out there on the field. You can understand why so many people are excited by the potential of Ben Johnson coming in. If you have craved offensive football, and we know Patriots fans have for quite some time, this is probably your guy. This is the guy that you want to see take this job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be honest with you. I'm very intrigued by the possibility of him coming here, because I would love to see what he could work with Drake May. We know they need a lot of help on the offensive side of the ball besides him. But, you pick up a left tackle either in free agency or the draft. You pick up another one via the same route, right? You either draft or, again, free agency where they have a ton of money, pick up a wide receiver or two, and all of a sudden the offense is starting to look a lot better. And you put a guy like him, back there pulling the strings. I think him working with Drake May would be really intriguing to watch. And, we're talking with Derek Havens, who I do the Pats 4th and 2 podcast with. He was telling me that something I didn't know about Ben Johnson, and that's that his philosophy stems from the Erhardt-Perkins system, which the Patriots ran for I don't know how many years, decades, let's put it that way. So that would be a really intriguing thing to see how that type of offense might work with Drake May and some of the guys they have.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because getting a chance to talk to Matt Deary a little bit offline before we went on the record on Locked On Patriots the other day, we talked a little bit about Ben's style and the type of offense that we can expect to see here in New England. Because as you know, Alex Van Pelt came in last year and wanted to run a very heavy outside zone-centric offense, one that was predicated on play action and the run to facilitate that. The Erhardt-Perkins system is a little bit of a different animal, but you can run it similarly if you have the personnel to do it and the innovative coach to make it work. The thing that I loved hearing about Ben Johnson, and the thing that really intrigued me most and maybe got me a little bit overly excited about the possibility of him coming here to be the head coach, was his willingness to work with a quarterback and build an offense based on what the quarterback does best. He did it with Jared Goff in Detroit. Sean McVay is generally considered a pretty solid offensive coach. A lot of people would consider him above average, Steve. I think there are more that would probably say he's better than above average, that he's very good at his job. But one thing that I think you can give Ben credit for was seeing the value in Jared Goff where maybe Sean had lost sight of that. And seeing the potential that he still had. Back in 2022, when Ben came in and took the reins of this offense, and he knew Jared was going to be his quarterback, those two went off and essentially isolated themselves from the team, from everyone else, for about 3 or 4 days. And they just sat in a room and they worked over concepts, plays, strategies. Jared basically told Ben Johnson, this is what I love to do. This is what I'm good at. This is where I have my problems. And Ben was essentially a sponge. He looked at the situation, scouted what Jared told him, put it into practice on the field when he saw him work out, and then began to build the offense based on that. And he did this only in a matter of about 3 years. So I understand that a lot of Patriots fans are looking for a quick fix right now. It would probably be a little bit more of a marathon rather than a sprint, but you're dealing with a guy that could potentially really revolutionize the way this team plays on offense. So at the time we're recording this, folks, keep in mind, no decision has been made yet by the Patriots. Now, you may be listening to this when a decision has already been made. So Turnabout is fair play, Steve. We're going to talk a little bit about Mike Vrabel now, because apparently, from sources that I've talked to, the interview on Thursday went very well. He's vowed to come in and maybe right some of the wrongs that he had in Tennessee. The most egregious of which is probably choosing experienced coaches around him. Your impressions on Mike Vrabel and your reasoning as to why he continues to be the front runner for this position, according to most of our colleagues in the media.
Well, I think I think there's a couple of very good factors that are involved with that. One is I love the culture he brings, and the more I read about his time in Tennessee, the more I like that aspect of him taking over. He's a tough coach to play for, much like Bill. Bill was hard on the players. Vrabel was very hard on his players in Tennessee, but he also built that other side, I think you could say, to his personality. He was a very tough coach, but he cared about his people, and he showed that, on a day-to-day basis. It's like, hey, there's there's that person that's behind that number, and he was going to do whatever it takes to make sure that they all, are put in the best position to succeed. And you got to love that. And so there's that aspect. We know, he was a successful coach. I've been stuttering on that word all week. But you look back to his time in Tennessee. He took him to an AFC championship game and then won 11 games, won 12 games after that, without a roster that you would say was loaded. Okay. They never really had a great quarterback there, but people poo-poo his record there. But if you look at it, the Titans weren't considered a juggernaut. They were just a really tough, hard-nosed football team that made the best of their roster around them. The other factor, in his favor, look, he was integral part of 3 Super Bowl wins with the Patriots. He was considered an extremely smart football player, played on both sides of the ball, caught 11 touchdown passes from Tom Brady, besides being an outside linebacker. Belichick always commented on how smart a football player he was. And Vrabel was one of those kind of smart alecky guys who could get under Bill's skin and get away with it. And that's his MO. Even in Tennessee, he was that kind of guy. The fun thing about this is, people saying, well, he's another Bill guy. He's not really. He never coached under Bill. He made his bones coaching, on his own. Now, he played for Bill for a number of years, and I'm sure quite a few of those lessons that Bill, was teaching, sank in, right? When you're winning 3 Super Bowls, there's a lot you could take away from that. And, I think the Patriots would do well with either one of these guys. I kind of think that Vrabel's is the front runner. I know the Krafts have, a good relationship with him, and that will play a lot into this. But, it's going to be interesting. I just hope whoever they don't choose doesn't go to the Jets.
Yeah, I think a lot of ways Patriots fans right now are hoping that whoever does not end up in New England does not end up on the green side of the Meadowlands. But again, politics and sports make strange bedfellows, Steve, and you never, ever say never to any possibility. Yeah, this could end up being very interesting in terms of who gets the job and then where does the other one head. Vrabel obviously brings, again, a tremendous amount of pedigree, having been in this organization and having known a familiarity with the Krafts and knowing a familiarity with the fan base. But I think in a lot of ways, what is giving Mike maybe the leg up on the competition this time around, or at least keeping him very much in the forefront, is his willingness to acknowledge that he had a lot to learn in his first stop in Tennessee. Whenever you're a first-time head coach, you're always looking to try to do everything you possibly can to put your own stamp on a team, which means that you may end up trying to do too much. You'll dabble in coaching the offense, coaching the defense, coaching the special teams, making sure that everything comes through you. That is a big part of being a coach, but there's also a time where you have to kind of let go of the reins a little bit, let the horse run, so to speak, in that regard, and let the offense kind of take on its own shape. Let the defense take on its own shape and make sure that you're the one that's crafting the final product. I think Mike is much more amenable to that this time around. That's why you're hearing some of the reports out there that he'll be willing and open to top tier, quote unquote, assistant coaches that may be able to come in here and help him this time around. Again, Steve, we talked about this. Whoever the coach is coming in, going to have to surround themselves with a very competent staff. Who should the Patriots be watching in that regard? Who should these coaches be watching in that regard? Steve and I are going to discuss some names in just a moment when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Are you tired of the endless waiting, wondering, and worrying about your taxes? Well, now that's a thing of the past. You see, taxes don't need to be complicated or stressful. TurboTax is here to change the game by matching you with a TurboTax expert who can get to work on your return right away. No more waiting for answers. No more wondering if you're missing out on deductions. Whether you've got one form or 20, TurboTax experts give your taxes their undivided attention, while you get real-time updates on their progress, so you can focus on what really matters. You won't have to lift a finger, but you'll get the peace of mind knowing that your taxes are being handled by the pros. Ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert, who's ready to take taxes off your plate so you can focus on your day. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Locked On listeners, it's playoff time. And if you're like me, you want to make the most of these final weeks of football action. That's where Prize Picks comes in. If you love football and want a chance to win real money while watching the games, Prize Picks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on player stats, like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns. And for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money, you can make your picks in less than 60 seconds. And whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or you want to cash out quickly, Prize Picks has got you covered. And with over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving this platform. Here's a special offer for Locked On NFL listeners. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Prize Picks. Run your game. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Patriots fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots as we continue to break down the New England Patriots search for their 16th head coach in franchise history. 4 interviews in the books. A lot of people are considering this a two-man race right now. As we sit here, both Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson have interviewed to be the Patriots' new head coach. But depending on who's offered and who accepts the job, who's going to be joining them on that bench? Well, here to discuss all of this and more today is our resident voice of reason, my Patriots paisan, Steve Balestrieri. Steve, we talked in the previous segment a lot about this two-man race between Ben Johnson of the Detroit Lions, innovative offensive coordinator, brilliant offensive mind, and Mike Vrabel, the experience of being a head coach in the past. True defensive-minded coach, but as my friend and colleague, Tyler Rowland of Locked On Titans, said yesterday here on the pod, he is a football savant. Mike is someone that can pretty much coach any area on the field. He's watched him coach the defensive backs. He's watched him get in there and actually take snaps with the linebackers. He'll align with the offensive line and tell them where they need to be and when they need to step up for a block. This is something that I think the Patriots are looking for in this coach, an experienced voice in that in that position that's going to be able to help lead this team back to respectability. But you and I both know it's not going to be all the head coach's responsibility. They're going to need competent coaches around them, and that means a pretty robust staff. So far, everyone is still in place. Only Gerard Mayo has been relieved of his duties. But I think it's a safe assumption that whoever is coming in to this staff is going to want to bring the majority of his own coaches in with him. So in that vein, my friend, when you look at both Ben Johnson, you look at Mike Vrabel, is there anybody that you're eyeing right now that could be a fit on either staff? Or do you really think it's more up to the individual coach right now as to what these staffs look like?
Yeah, that's the next intriguing question, right? We're looking at, okay, if they hire Vrabel, they hire Ben Johnson, who are going to be their coordinators? And I mean, I think that's a really good question to look at. A lot of people have been mentioning Josh McDaniel coming back as the offensive coordinator, with Mike Vrabel. And I like that for a couple of different reasons. We saw how Josh worked with Mac Jones in his rookie year. I mean, Mac had a very, very good rookie year when, Josh was running the offense. And the fact that we know McDaniel is an outstanding offensive coordinator. Him and Vrabel supposedly are close. I don't know how close that is, but the other thing is that Josh wouldn't be going anywhere. As long as Vrabel was on the sideline, McDaniel would have a job because he's not going to get offered another, head coaching gig in the NFL. And that's something to keep an eye on. Everyone loves these young guys, these up-and-coming guys who come in, but the better they are and you want them to succeed, wildly, right? But then they get offered a head coaching job of their own, like Ben Johnson is right now. So that's something to keep an eye on. Now, you and I were talking offline, and I think McDaniel could be a choice for Johnson as well, for the same reasons. And the other that we were talking about, that Johnson's philosophy originally stemmed from the Erhard-Perkins system, which would make him, him and Ben Johnson, they probably speak the same language. I'm sure there's, twists in, how they approach certain things, but I think they would be able to get along really quickly. Another guy to keep an eye on that has ties to Vrabel is the Jets interim offensive coordinator, Todd Downing. He worked with Vrabel in Tennessee. Maybe he brings him along. I don't know. I mean, it's a really good question to have. Another name for a defensive coordinator for Vrabel could be Terrell Williams. He's a coach with the Lions as well. And maybe, again, there could be some carryover if Johnson gets the job.
Right.
So those are a couple of names to keep an eye on, right?
Absolutely. And I think you're keeping an eye on some very good names. Look, Josh is the hot name right now, and I'll come back to him in just a moment, because if it is going to be Mike Vrabel, I think Josh McDaniels makes too much sense for it not to happen. And I think you hit on exactly why, because Josh is someone that is probably a safe pick in this situation. He's not going to go anywhere. He's not going to be offered another position. He's not going to go elsewhere and be an OC. He's going to want to stay in New England where his family is comfortable. So I think you can look at him and say, this is not a guy that's going to be poached by another staff anytime soon. Again, we'll get back to Josh and his style in a bit, but I did want to mention another name that could be a possibility if, in fact, Josh decides that he doesn't want to be on Mike's staff, or if Ben Johnson potentially gets the job and Ben looks at maybe someone like a McDaniels as another alpha coming into the room that he may not want to cede any type of major responsibilities to because of how well Josh is revered in this area, it could be seen as a little bit of a power struggle. And I'm not saying that Ben would do that, but if you're the head coach, you want to be the guy in the room. You want to be the main man. And sometimes when your assistant's reputation precedes you, that can cause some tension. That's just, again, my own thought process on this. It's going to be up to those guys to work it out. But one guy I'm really surprised hasn't gotten a lot more attention as a potential coordinator, offensive coordinator in this league, is a guy that spent some time here in New England, and that's Nick Caley over in Los Angeles right now on the staff of Sean McVay. You mentioned the Earhart-Perkins system. Caley definitely proved that he can coach in that system when he coached the tight ends here under Josh McDaniels. Worked with guys like Rob Gronkowski, worked with guys like Dwayne Allen, Martellus Bennett. He's worked with some of the better tight ends in this league and guys that had versatile skill sets that needed to necessarily find their way in a system. Again, you want to run that Earhart-Perkins system. I think Caley could be a very good fit. He loves to run that up-tempo, no-huddle style, control the time of possession, run the ball, use the passing game to get into the end zone. And I think that's what Ben Johnson's strong point is. I think that could be the beginning of a very beautiful friendship. So if you're looking for two young coaches to start to build, it's going to be Ben Johnson, folks. Keep an eye on Nick Caley. I would keep an eye on Nick anyway, even if he doesn't take the job here in New England. I think that pairing could be very interesting on an NFL staff, no matter where it happens to be. But the only thing I worry about with Josh, and I want to pick your brain on this a little bit as well, is Josh's style has a tendency to be a little abrasive. He's rubbed some people the wrong way in Denver, in Las Vegas, even here in New England. But as an OC, he's been able to really maximize the talent. He's working one-on-one with a quarterback. His relationship with Brady is something that will never be duplicated. Josh McDaniels and Tom Brady were, co-maestros in a beautiful symphony for as long as those two were running the offense up here in New England. But did a very good job with Jimmy Garoppolo. Did a very good job, I thought, with Mac Jones his rookie season. So in that regard, with that type of abrasive style, do you worry that it could be different from what Drake May has been used to this year with Alex Van Pelt, who tends to use more of the velvet hammer when he's, working with a young quarterback? Would that worry you at all, knowing already that Vrabel is going to be the type of no-nonsense coach that the Patriots need at the helm? Do you think you may need someone maybe with a little bit softer of an approach to handle the offense and handle their young quarterback?
Well, I think that's a legitimate question. I mean, we know when Josh was the head coach in both places, he had that reputation, and it was well deserved. I mean, it's been documented. I think as a coordinator, he was a little bit different. I know him and Brady were just in lockstep from day one. But, when I saw how he worked with Mac Jones, and again, I mean, he didn't treat Mac the way we've heard how he treated some other players in his coaching career. I thought, again, I like the analogy you used, a velvet hammer. I think that was the approach he took. Mm-hmm. With Mac Jones being a rookie, I think with Drake May would be pretty much the same way. Obviously, Drake is farther along, but he's shown, he can take hard coaching. Yeah. He's not worried about that. And the kid is very mature for his age. I mean, he takes responsibility. I think him and McDaniels would get along famously. Could be wrong there because we don't know. We're not in the room with them. But I think those two would get along famously because McDaniels is another guy. He plays to people's strengths. He knows what they do very well. He knows what they don't do very well. And he sticks with what they do, to give them the, best chance to succeed. So, it is a legitimate question, but I don't think that would be an issue with Drake.
Steve, another name that could be a possibility for the Patriots, finding out very late on Friday afternoon that the Miami Dolphins have parted ways with passing game coordinator and former Patriot Wes Welker. That could be one to watch, folks. Wes has kind of started to ingratiate himself back into good graces here in New England. Could Mike Vrabel bring him in? Reportedly, there's still a relationship between those two as well. All different kinds of combinations and permutations. But, Steve, I don't want to take leave of this subject before we talk about the defense, because obviously this team finished the season number 30 overall in DVOA on defense. That can't happen again. DeMarcus Covington is still in his position right now, but you and I both have talked offline, and I think it's going to be very tough for him to maintain that position this year. Maybe he stays on staff, but I don't think you're going to see him be the DC. Are there any names right now that you're watching, whether it be Vrabel, whether it be Johnson, whether it be both, the Patriots fans should be keeping a sharp eye on when it comes to the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, defensive coordinator, I would think if it's Vrabel, he's bringing his guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to bring a guy probably from the Titans side with him. And again, I mentioned that the one player, one coach, from Detroit that, if it's Johnson, maybe he brings him along. So I don't know. I mean, that's a question. I don't know enough about what each guy is thinking about team philosophy yet. I mean, we know the Patriots have interviewed them, but we haven't heard these guys speak yet. So it's going to be interesting, when it comes down to the nitty gritty, of what's going to be the philosophy and who they're going to bring in. And I like the idea of the Patriots bringing in Wes Welker as well.
Yeah,
Especially
I think that could
with
be interesting.
Yeah,
absolutely. Steve, I agree with you. I think Terrell Williams is definitely a possibility for both guys. I actually like him as a DC candidate with Ben Johnson, maybe a little bit more than Mike Vrabel because of the relationship they definitely have on the Lions staff. But I can see Vrabel dabbling into that as well. Another name to watch if you're Mike Vrabel, Zach Core. Who is a defensive assistant right now with the New York Giants, spent 3 years in Tennessee. So this could be another possibility, another name to watch, folks. A lot is going to be determined on who accepts this job, and whoever accepts this job going to be getting a couple of all-pros to coach next year. That's right, folks. We're going to take a little break from all of this extensive coaching search talk to get some much-deserved laurels to Brendan Schooler, Patriots special teamer, and cornerback Christian Gonzalez. We're going to talk about the value of these players and how each of them will be such key parts when it comes to building this team back to respectability. We're going to talk about that and more when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On listeners, from big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. The games may be in the books for your New England Patriots, but don't hesitate, not even for a second, to let your NFL fandom work for you on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Patriots fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots. At present, the Patriots coaching staff interviews appear to be done, and now we wait. Will it be Mike Vrabel? Will it be Ben Johnson? Looks to be a two-man race between those two, but as we always say here on Locked On Patriots, anything and everything is possible in Foxborough. In the meantime, I am proud to welcome my good friend Steve Balestrieri, my Patriots paisan, here today to talk about all the ups and downs, the ins and outs of the Patriots coaching search. Steve, we've talked Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson, potential assistants. We've gone pretty deep into the Patriots coaching search, but I thought it would be fun, and I thought it would be a good way to bring Patriots Nation together, who continues to be so divided right now. You got Team Ben, you got Team Vrabel. Who's going against who? I think we can all agree that two Patriots players this year that had themselves very good seasons were handsomely rewarded for that effort this year, and that was the votes of the Associated Press All-Pro team. They were released on Friday, January 10th. Two New England Patriots getting the honor, special teamer Brendan Schooler getting the first team nod, and cornerback Christian Gonzalez getting a second team nod. Steve, we talk a lot about Gonzo. We're going to get to him in just a moment, but Brendan is a first teamer. He's also a Pro Bowler. Wanted to sing his praises a little bit. When you look at Brendan Schooler, what about him leaps off the page to you? How deserving of this honor is he, and how big of a role do you see him playing in the Patriots' attempt to return to respectability?
Oh, I think what he brings to the table is right off the charts. I mean, I think he's one of the top 2 or 3 gunners in the league. He learned from the best there ever was with Matthew Slater, and I loved the interaction that the Patriots had filmed with those two on the field the other day. You could see there's a deep connection there. I love what he brings to the field. He goes at it 100 miles an hour on every snap, just like Slater did, but he does it with, he's always under control. He's a big time playmaker, and I love the fact that they actually put together the Longhorn package for him on defense, where he was able to step in and play, as a quarterback spy against a couple of teams. He ended up with, a couple of big plays in that. I think the sky's the limit for this guy as long as he stays healthy. I think he's going to be one of your top special teams guys in the entire league year after year.
No question about it. Brendan is absolutely following in the footsteps of his predecessor and his mentor, Matthew Slater. You know the degree and the reverence with which I hold Matthew Slater up at the top when it comes to the Patriots pantheon, and there are a lot of reasons for that. But getting back to Schooler, you got to give him all the credit in the world. It's not easy to come in and to replace a legend, but Brendan has done it. 86.5% of the snaps played on special teams, he was in there in the kicking game, really playing a huge role. 9 tackles. That led special teams for the 3rd consecutive year. That was always an area where Matthew shined. And since Brendan has walked through the doors here in Foxborough, he's taken on that mantra, and I think he's done a phenomenal job. I also love the fact that this guy had 50 downs on defense. And you mentioned the pair of sacks. Collected those against a couple of pretty good quarterbacks, folks, in Caleb Williams and against Tua Tagovailoa. So you want to talk about a Longhorn package that allows you to be able to be a weapon in that regard. You got to give a lot of credit to Brendan. I do believe that the sky is indeed the limit for him as well. Speaking of the sky's the limit, Steve, the Patriots clearly have themselves a keeper at the cornerback position. Started 16 games for the Patriots this year, 59 tackles, 11 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, and maybe his highlight of the season, returning a fumble from 63 yards out for his first career touchdown. Steve, I can keep going with all of the accolades on the field of why Christian Gonzalez is a top-level corner, but you have that reason that allows you to see things us mere mortals don't see. What about the intangibles that Christian brings to the table that lead you to believe this is the guy upon which we're going to build on defense?
Well, just the trust they show in him for such a young player. They almost weekly put him against the best wide receiver your opponents has, and they don't often give him help over the top. I think he would have gotten a lot more recognition had the overall Patriots record been different. Not that it affected his game whatsoever, because I mean, you look at the numbers he was putting up every week when faced against, the opponent's top wide receiver. They were outstanding. And I think if the Patriots had won some more football games, people would have been recognizing that a little more. And I kind of get it. I mean, when a team goes 4-13, you're not looking at a defensive player on that team saying, oh, this guy is so good.
Steve, obviously, I know you join me in giving a tip of the cap to Christian Gonzalez and to Brendan Schooler, who will be their next head coach here in New England. That really is the only question surrounding these gentlemen, because the sky is the limit when it comes to them both. But once again, things continue to be interesting here in New England, and we will continue to monitor the coaching search for the New England Patriots as it enters its first weekend. Yeah, that's right. It's hard to believe that all of this has happened within the course of 1 week. Steve, it's been a long week here in New England, but it's been an exciting one. You've been here every step of the way. You helped us open this week with the fresh news that Gerard Mayo had been relieved of his duties right after Sunday's game. Here you are again, helping us to wrap up what we believe is a wrap on the coaching search and providing some final wisdom and counsel for all of us to take into the weekend. Again, folks, keep a sharp eye on Locked On Patriots. We're going to continue to monitor the Patriots situation throughout the weekend. Is anything imminent? Your guess is as good as ours. But if it happens, we'll bring it to you right here on Locked On Patriots. But in the meantime, my friend, what can I say? Thank you for being a valued friend to Locked On Patriots and for lending all of the wisdom, counsel, and reason the way only you can. As we said to open the show, Steve, there are things being negotiated that'll answer all your questions, solve all your problems. But that's all Steve and I can tell you about our business right now, folks. All we can say is that it will be interesting. And as soon as word breaks, we will bring it to you right here on Locked On Patriots. But in the meantime, Bud, I want to give you one more thanks, one more tip of the cap for dropping by the pod and for doing all you did for us this week. And folks, most importantly, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us here on Locked On Patriots. All of you everydayers have provided such amazing support for Locked On Patriots. I personally cannot thank you enough for that. Thank you for making us a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. We have several first-time listeners and now casual listeners that are starting to come back into the fold. This is a great time to stay locked into Locked On Patriots, folks, because the best is yet to come. Exciting guests lined up for next week. A lot more interaction with you, the fans, the bring back of Mock Draft Monday, the bring back of the midweek mailbag, and so much more. So stay locked into Locked On Patriots. You're not going to want to miss a single second of the action. Once again, I'm Mike Debate, and on behalf of Steve Balestrieri, I wish you all the opportunity to stay safe, to stay well, to be the change you wish to see in the world. And of course, our thoughts are with all of our friends over on the West Coast right now, fighting unspeakable tragedy, unspeakable loss. Our hearts are with you. Our support is with you. And we continue to wish for everyone's safety and for as positive an outcome to what has been a horrific situation. If you're able to do so, folks, try to have yourselves a great weekend. Enjoy, and we'll see you back here again on Monday on Locked On Patriots.